Hello and welcome to the She Reads Romance Books podcast, the ultimate show for romance book lovers looking for the best books worth reading. I'm your host, Leslie Murphy, and in each short episode, I share my favorite book list of recommendations so you know exactly what to add to your must-read list. Join me as I explore the romance genre and have fun collecting book boyfriends along the way, because life is better with a love story. Hello, readers! The topic of today's episode is one I've been wanting to talk about and write about for a really long time. So thank you to my reader, Shauna, who emailed me asking for some recommendations of romance books featuring more mature, older heroines, and suggested that I create this list ASAP. So here it is, and thank you, Shauna, for getting me to talk about this sooner rather than later. But I should say, I really had no idea how to title this episode or the list. I really don't like the adjective older, though, I guess they are older heroines and older couples in romance, and mature heroine sounds just as lame, but I guess you get the idea behind the purpose of this episode. I'm talking about romance books with characters who are over 40, and I'm so excited. Because while I love a good young adult or even new adult romance, it's something completely different when it's a romance book with a heroine that I can truly relate to. And I can tell you, I'm definitely no longer in my 20s or my 30s for that matter. So that's why I'm so excited to share these books with you today. So get your TBR list ready because I've got some good ones. And I'm going to start with book 1 on my list of romance books with older couples. And that is The Will by Kristen Ashley, which is an opposites attract love story. We first meet Josephine Malone at her dear grandmother's funeral. Her gran was her only true, family, and her house, Lavender House, was Josie's safe haven growing up. So to say that she was devastated by the loss of her gran is an understatement. But then imagine her surprise when her gran's will is read and basically her gran leaves her precious Josie to one Jake Spear, a man she has never met until that day. Jake is also surprised by Gran's will pronouncement, but unlike Josie, he decides to take it seriously and intends to do just that, make Josie his. So this did start out, I would admit, a bit slow for me, and I had to get used to both Josie's and Jake's way of speaking, but I'm so glad I stuck it out because the ending was just really, really good. Josie is in her 40s, and she's been traveling around with a professional photographer and guarding her heart given her childhood, and Jake is a 40-something retired boxer who's been unlucky in love with several failed marriages. But I especially loved Josie's interaction with Jake's children. She became such a strong mother figure despite not having one of her own aside from Gran's influence. And that was really a special thing to see for her. I also loved how there really wasn't a lot of angst or unnecessary drama to the story because it really wasn't needed. And the last chapter and the epilogue were just amazing. So definitely give this one a read if you haven't already. Book 2 on my list of romance books featuring older couples and older heroines is Beard in Hiding by Penny Reed. Diane and Repo are both in their 40s, and their romance starts off really hot. Diane, she's a divorcee and socialite of their small town in Tennessee, and she's at a point in her life where she's tired of playing it safe, and she's looking for someone to give her a good time and her first orgasm, and she knows just where to find such a man. That's why Repo, the VP of the Wraiths Motorcycle Club, sees Diane walking into their club bar dressed like she's looking for someone to warm someone's bed. And he would say he has no choice but to be that person. So they have this hot and heavy night, but it turns into more secret meetups between the two. I loved Diane's spunk, but man, Repo, he was so smooth and so sexy. I absolutely loved their first date and their conversation. It was just a really great part of this book. But I should say the book really just gives a happy for now ending. It was satisfying enough, though I wouldn't be opposed to be getting more of them in the future, which actually might be a possibility because I should make a note that this is a companion novel to Penny Reid's Winston Brothers and Solving for Pi series. While it probably can be read as a standalone, I would recommend that you read Beard Science first, which is book 3 in the Winston Brothers series, just to meet Diane's daughter Jen and to get her story. But I haven't read the Solving for Pi books, and it wasn't a problem for me reading this one. But overall, definitely recommend Beard in Hiding by Penny Reid. Book 3 on my list is Fortuity by Jewel E. Ann. Gosh, this book, it hit me with all the feels, which is why it sits on my list of best romance books of all time. If I remember correctly, this was actually my first Jewel E. Ann book, I think, which I honestly just picked up on a whim, I think on Kindle Unlimited. And thank goodness I did, because it's an amazing romance between two 40-somethings. It's actually book 3 in her Transcend series, but I read it as a standalone, so don't worry if you haven't read the others. It's a single-parent romance, neighbors to lovers romance. And this book actually could easily have been included on my list of best Guardian romance books, which I talked about in a podcast episode. So if you haven't listened to that, go back and check it out. And that's because Gracelyn becomes the guardian to her nephew after her brother and his wife pass away. She ends up moving into a house on the beach in San Diego next door to Nathaniel and his young daughter. Both Gracelyn and Nathaniel have had their hearts broken multiple times to the point where Gracelyn has put herself on this self-imposed man ban, and Nathaniel has been relationshipless for the last 10 years. But these two are thrown together by happenstance and given sort of a new chance at a happily ever after in the story. And I love that the story really doesn't get too marred down in their past relationships and hurts. You learn just enough to sort of understand where their hearts are and the chasm that has to be crossed to open them up to love again. But I also liked how the kids weren't just side pieces to the story, nor were their interests just discarded. Nate and Gracelyn had to make some tough choices, when it came to being parents first and foremost, and I appreciated that aspect of the story as it unfolded. The most surprising aspect, actually, of the book was the slightly dominant side to Nate that you see behind closed doors, which was really hot. But there's honestly just so much to love about this book, and I hope that you give it a read. Book 4 on my list of romance books with older couples and older heroines is Aftercare by L.B. Dunbar. So first and foremost, though, shout out to L.B. because the woman cranks out romance books featuring characters over 40, and I love it. I also read Love in Due Time, which was great, but she has so many books with older heroines and mature couples that you definitely have to check out her entire catalog of books. But Aftercare is about Edie Williams, who is a breast cancer survivor, divorced mother of 2 older children. She plans this epic vacation with her kids to Hawaii, where they befriend another family where the guy is a rock star, but it's his manager that catches Edie's eye. Tommy Kerrigan is a silver fox with tattoos and an eye for Edie. He shows her that he loves her body as it is and that she can definitely let loose and have some fun. And this book was fun. It was hot. It was just a perfect read about a heroine over 40 who's ready for a change. So highly recommend Aftercare by L.B. Dunbar. Book 5 on my list is actually a book I haven't read yet, but I'm going to, and it's Gray Hair Don't Care by Karen Booth. It's the first book in her Never Too Late series. In this book, the heroine is 47, but it flashes forward 3 years, so she and the hero are actually 50, I think, in this book. Layla is a newly divorced makeup artist who is apprehensive about starting over, right, and entering the dating scene again. But she ends up running into Donovan, who was her crush from college. But she ends up confessing her crush after their one-night stand. So he ups and flees in the middle of the night and ghosts her. But then 3 years later, they are thrown together again and possibly given a second chance. I love that this book is on Kindle Unlimited, so it's a no-brainer for me to give it a go. And if I like it, I know I'm probably going to be reading the entire series because I love that Booth is giving us even more older heroines, and I can't wait to check them out. If you want to read this one along with me, definitely grab Gray Hair Don't Care by Karen Booth. And there you have it. I'm so happy about this episode. Thank you again, Shauna, for the reminder and the suggestion. If you have a list you'd like me to explore on an upcoming podcast episode, then definitely reach out to me. I am at Leslie@shereadsromancebooks.com. I would love to hear from you. So enjoy the books on this list, and as always, happy reading. That's all for this episode of the She Reads Romance Books podcast. I hope you enjoyed it and found some new books to add to your TBR list. If you did, please subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. It really helps me reach more romance book lovers like you, and I appreciate your support. If you're a book boyfriend collector like me, then you'll want to join my email list so you never miss a podcast episode or a new book list. Just visit shereadsromancebooks.com/join and sign up today. As a thank you, I'll instantly send you my list of top 10 book boyfriends that will make you swoon. Trust me, you don't want to miss this list. Thank you for listening, and until next time, happy reading.